My name's Travis Thrasher, and I am a writer and storyteller. It feels like I've been writing my whole life. It really was, it was in third grade when I decided I wanted to be a writer. In ninth grade, when I wrote my first novel, finished it, and I was fortunate. I was never a great student. I was not the one in class that somebody would be like, oh, yes, he's going to write lots of books, in his future. But, um, but I just stuck at it, and writing's one of those art forms that, the more you do it, the better you become, the more you find your voice. And I was fortunate right out of college, I was able to find a job at a publishing company. And the job, I actually had applied as a copy editor. And I didn't get that job because they said, well, you tested fine, but your personality, you seem to be an extrovert. And do you really want to, could you spend all day working on a manuscript? Which is hilarious because that's what I've been doing the last 2 decades. But I do love people. So the first job I got was it's called author relations manager. And my job was I was the middleman between the publishing house and all of our authors. So it started out where I was kind of just I would send them checks and I'd send them their books and I would take their questions and their concerns. But it really grew into an acquisitional role where I would go visit some of our key authors. And so it was, a lot of writers, I always tell them, if you need to be around other writers and you need to go to writers conferences and talk to editors, meet editors and agents. Well, my job, it was a writers conference every single day. I had to know everything about the publishing process because authors would call me up and they'd be like, there was this mistake with the printing, or, when is this going to happen? Or, I needed to know as much as possible. So I worked at this publishing company 13 years as author relations manager. And from the very first day I was there, I made it very clear. I'm like, I want to be a published writer. So the next best thing I could think of doing is working alongside writers. But so I just started writing. I wrote probably 9 or 10 novels, finish them, try to get them published, and all of them. It wasn't like all of them were terrible, but they just weren't that great. They weren't that exceptional. So it'd be pretty difficult to ask a publisher like Random House or Doubleday or Simon and Schuster to pay me anything for, an average book. They don't do that, and so I eventually was able to get published, and it was like this sweet little love story that I got published. Very much, it always helps when things are sort of they suddenly become popular, and then other authors repeat that. So I there's an author very well known now, Nicholas Sparks. He wrote The Notebook, and it was this sweet, short little story, but it was really masterful in the way he did it because it was more than just a love story. But so little hardcover book. It really is almost a novella. So that was what my first book was. It's called The Promise Remains, and again, a sweet love story. And it wasn't like, I mean, I could not imagine just writing those types of books for the rest of my life. What I wanted to do, I remember being at the publishing house thinking, they would tell writers, you need to stay in a box. If you need to build a brand, and that brand needs to be consistent and da da da. And I would be like, why can't a writer be like an actor and do a little bit of everything? And I remember that the people at the publishing house, my colleagues and my boss and stuff, they would say, no, that just does not work. And actually, I mean, it doesn't work in terms of, like, I mean, it's very, very difficult to build a career doing that, but I'm an example that it can happen, because I was able to quit my full-time job and I, as I always say, I quit in 2007, and it's been since then since I knew when I was going to get paid. And there's some truth there, but I went to be a full-time writer, and first I was doing my own fiction, but unless you become a household name, it's difficult to make a living, provide for your family as a writer. So I was fortunate because I started doing co-writing or ghostwriting. What I always say is that I like using the word collaboration, that sort of thing. And I view a lot of what I do more so than even writing. I view it as I'm curating stories from people. A lot of times I'll interview somebody, they're tell me their life story, and I need to curate those stories and then organize them in a certain way. But the great thing about co-writing, ghostwriting was that started opening doors, which allowed me to meet incredible people, people that just I would never have met on my own. And then to walk in their shoes for a while, to get to know all about them. And then it opened up doors, such a variety of doors, because I've done children's books, I've done business books, I've done da 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 da. And so that guy who was at the publishing company, the young guy who naively thought, man, why can't somebody do a variety of books? Well, you can. So that's what I've been doing for a long time. And I just I love being able to, here's a new project. Somebody, publisher and my agent, they come to me with a new project. And oftentimes it's surprising because it could be a musician, it could be a pastor, it could be a teacher. And then I suddenly have to go like, uh-oh, okay, which world is this in? What box is this going to look like? But I really always want to serve the author and really collaborate in the best way I can. So we were talking about, writers and how they write and, just what they do and the routine and this and that. And I'm all about routines, and I'm all about, there's no one right way to do it. But in my mind, I'm always like, look, it's a job, and you need to you really need to approach it like that, where it's like this thing. And what I learned was when I first became a full-time writer, I had only written like on Saturday mornings, and then I would maybe try to fit it in during the week, alongside my other job. Once I went full time, I had to develop, it was almost like a runner. First you can only run 5 miles, but then if you keep running, okay, I did 8 miles, I did 10 miles. It was like that with writing, because it was writing every single morning. Whoa, that was a lot, but it's something you have to build up to. But I'm a big proponent of, like, if I can write anywhere at any time because I've been doing it so long. I mean, I don't need to be inspired. I mean, I love being inspired, and I am inspired by people, but at the same time, like if I have a head cold and I'm uninspired and my kids are being loud and all that sort of stuff, I can still write. I mean, it's sort of like I have to write it, that sort of thing. So yeah, I've been so blessed to be able to do this thing that I love. I meet so many people that have stable jobs, and they're successful and they're happy, but it's not like they're doing this thing that they love, that they first dreamt about doing in third grade. And so that is one of the blessings that I have, that even though I've done over 100 books, I still am able to love what I do. And I never know who's going to be, calling or zooming with their story. And so it's an incredible gift to be able to do this thing I love. And again, I have my third grade teacher to thank. So it's an awesome thing.